Yes, once again, the What's Your Favorite Movie Orchestra indicates that you have dialed your internet connection to America's favorite podcast, not about The Bachelor. What's your favorite movie? Thanks for joining us on another fun-filled, movie-filled extravaganza of podcast goodness. My name is Ed South, and this is a show where we talk about movies, sometimes about favorite movies, sometimes about not favorite movies. And this might be one where we do both. And you can follow our show at WYF Movie Podcast on Twitter. And you can find us on Facebook or email us at favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. Did I say at Fave Movie Podcast? It's at WYF Movie Podcast. It really doesn't matter when no one does anything with these addresses, but that's what they are. Twitter at WYF Movie Podcast. Facebook, I don't know how to find it. favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. If you want to email us and say, Ed, why are you still doing this? Why are you taking a half hour of my every 2 weeks away from me talking about movies? Joining us in the What's Your Favorite Movie Studios. I wish we had a sponsor, so like a big sponsor that would be the Toyota. What's Your Favorite Movie? Toyota Sleep Number Studios. It's our good friend Diana who's joining us once again to talk about movies. Diana, how are you today?
I'm excellent. How are you, Ed?
I am super great. Diana, have you seen any good movies lately?
Probably, but...
Diana hates being asked questions, so she's a great podcast guest because she hates being asked questions. Actually, you just moved from one location to another, as moving involves.
Yes.
And for some reason, in the move, your television has lost its function to display the picture properly.
Yeah, it's not playing nicely with the cable box.
Correct aspect ratio.
Right.
So everything is stretched out.
It's just off.
And you and I are of the ilk of the highly educated part of the population that understands faces on TV should look like faces in real life. And we don't watch things stretched out.
Yeah.
I have never watched any television in a hotel room since rectangular televisions came out. I've never been in a hotel room where the picture was the right way.
Yeah, it's upsetting. I can't watch TV anymore because it's too upsetting.
So tune in next week for What's Your Favorite View Out the Window, starring Diana. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about some reboots, some remakes, a subject we've touched on before, and there's a couple of new projects. Okay. A couple new projects that are coming out that I am excited about and I want to talk about, and they are reboots and remakes and reduxes. But I want to start the conversation, if we could, switching over to the big screen's little friend, the little screen, TV reboots, because they go hand in hand with remakes. Like a movie comes out, like let's say, well, we're going to talk about Mary Poppins Returns first of all. She's returning to Pop, and people are like, can't they come up with any original ideas? It's called a sequel, people. They make a lot of money, and that's what. But the thing is, like with the TV reboots, like Will and Grace. Now, first of all, TV reboots and rehashes and reunions aren't anything new. They've been doing that forever. And the thing is, a lot of times it was always like half-assed, or it'd be like they have 3 of the 7 people, and so they have to make all these concessions or recast. But when Will and Grace came back, it was all 4 of them. That show only starred 4 people, and they got all 4 of them back, and they're all in it full throttle. Same with like Twin Peaks, right? Like your jam Twin Peaks came back, and it has like 50 people returning, right?
Sort of, yeah.
50?
There were a lot of the original cast. It didn't really focus though on the old people.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
And then like Full House has all the same people back in except for one. And they're doing Roseanne's coming on in a couple of weeks with the whole cast. Aren't you excited for that?
Not so much. But
Not so much.
I know you are.
I just like the concept. I've never watched Will and Grace, but I like the new one. I just think it's awesome that they've done that. Roseanne I watched in the beginning, but I'm really, really excited about Murphy Brown coming back because I think that's a show that will benefit from the change in time period and see how Murphy Brown does with the current political climate. Wah, wah. Even though she's like, what, 70 in real life?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
women aren't allowed on television after 50, right?
Correct.
So how's that going to work? How are they going to write that into the show? But wait a minute. She's 70 like in real life and in the show. And she's on TV. Never mind. Diana, I'm going to ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
What is one traditional sitcom, like in front of a studio audience with a laugh track that you like, maybe even liked a lot?
Oh my
Is there one? Give me a break.
I watched that at the time, but I wouldn't list that in my favorites.
Is there no show you would sit down now and watch if it was a sitcom, even if it was stretched down to the right proportions?
Wow, I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Family Ties?
Family Ties. I mean,
Cheers?
That's...
Give me a break. Bewitched? Anyway, let's talk about a movie coming out later this year that I'm excited about. Mary Poppins Returns. Diana, what's your Mary Poppins enthusiasm level in general? The original film is a classic.
It is a classic, and I've seen it many times.
As everyone should.
Right.
So Disney announces that they're going to put out a new Mary Poppins movie, which anything Disney says, I'm all ears. Doesn't mean I'm going to love it, whatever. And they said they're doing a new Mary Poppins. I was like, that's cool. They're digging their vaults for everything. So we'll see. And then I saw the trailer. It's like a teaser trailer that was on during the Oscars. And I instantly fell in love with this movie. I don't even think the movie shows a single clip. I mean, the trailer doesn't show
Not really.
clips. It's all for the trailer. But the music is right. And the setting and like the buildings look the same, and it looks awesome. It just captures the spirit of the original movie amazingly. And then Mary Poppins is now played by Emily Blunt. And
Why did you say it like that?
just wanted to say Blunt. And I was saying it bluntly, Diana. She looks like Mary Poppins. She doesn't look like Julie Andrews as Mary Poppins. She just looks the part of Mary Poppins. It's like awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the visuals are all right.
Where do we know Emily Blunt from? Like, what was her... Do you know?
I mean, she's made a lot of movies. I don't know.
There's not like her big moment where she hit the radar and now we all know who Emily Blunt is? I will be honest with you, I couldn't pick her up out of a lineup unless...
Really?
I don't think so.
I mean, I know who she is. I couldn't begin to tell you, though, what she's been in, other than I know I've seen her in a bunch of things.
Well, now she's Mary Poppins. You think she'll be a big, huge... Is she a big, huge star? No, she's a character actor. No, she's a leading lady.
I mean...
She's Mary Poppins.
She's Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins Returns is the sequel to Mary Poppins Arrives from 1964. 54 years later, we're getting a sequel. That's pretty crazy. Because this isn't like just this isn't a remake. They're not doing the same story. And the official blur for the film is, in Depression-era London, a now-grown Jane and Michael Banks, along with Michael's 3 children, are visited by the enigmatic Mary Poppins following a personal loss. Now, does that mean Mary Poppins had a personal loss? Okay. Because I was like, that's a little much. Like her umbrella died, maybe, or something. But okay, so Jane and Michael and Jane and Michael Banks, along with Michael's 3 children. So obviously, Michael's wife probably died.
Probably,
as is prerequisite for all Disney films to have a dead parent. So yeah, so in the trailer, they're flying the kites. Remember at the end of the movie, they were flying kites. That's what the whole movie led up to. And then Mary Poppins comes flying down on the kite, and it's like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do some Mary Poppins with Emily Blunt.
Yep.
Now, the movie takes place 20 years after the original movie.
Right.
54 years later, 20 years later in storyline. And to make it more complicated, it takes place in the 30s, but the original books take place in the 30s. So, but the movie takes place in the 1900s. So, did I lose everybody there?
I think you said something wrong there.
But... the books take place in the 1930s.
Right.
The movie takes place in the 1901, 1903.
Well, whatever.
It does, right? He says in the song, like, I lived my life in 1903.
Right, so the 1964 movie was set in, I think, 1910 London.
Oh, so then it does make sense. Well, but I'm saying the book took place in the 30s. The movie pushed the date back 20 years.
Right, whatever.
Because Walt Disney was smart like that.
Right, but this upcoming movie takes place in the 1930s.
30s.
And yeah, I mean, there's no reason why this movie can't exist, because there's plenty of source material to draw from. There were 8 Mary Poppins books.
8 Mary Poppins books.
So
most people think there's one Mary Poppins book.
No, the 64 movie drew from, I think, like the first 4 books, something like that.
What are the books? Mary Poppins.
I couldn't begin
Mary
to tell
Poppins
you.
Returns. Mary Poppins Buys a Zoo. Mary Poppins and the Magical Umbrella Adventure. Mary Poppins Dark Knight. That was a terrifying one.
I couldn't begin to tell you.
And
But
Mary Poppins goes to France. Mary Poppins goes to Hollywood. So we got Emily Blunt on board. Then we got, in the new movie, Meryl Streep's in the house because they turned on a camera and she just popped up as is prerequisite. What's up with her in musicals? She's done quite a few musicals, hasn't she?
she's done a lot of everything.
This is true. This is true. When's she going to win the Oscar? Does she have Oscars? She must.
I don't know.
I should know that. Colin Firth is going to be in it. Yeah. Colin Firth. My mom's boyfriend.
Oh.
Who she loved
did
dearly.
She have a thing for him?
Yes, she had a thing for him very dearly. Colin Firth. Angela. Mother loving Lansbury's in the house. That's awesome. Yeah. I like me some Angela Lansbury. She, of course, was in the Mary Poppins wannabe Bedknobs and Broomsticks, right, which is fantastic. Folks, if you've never seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks, perhaps it won't have the same appeal if you didn't see it when you were a kid, but you should watch it now and enjoy it because it has so many bedknobs in it and so many broomsticks. Actually, only has one bedknob. The bedknob is on display at a museum in California, by the way.
Nice.
And I would go see it and twist it and say the magic words and fly away. When they were making Mary Poppins, when they were trying to make Mary Poppins, they hadn't secured the rights fully. They also bought Bedknobs and Broomsticks and started working on that because that author was much more congenial to the project. And then they put Bedknobs and Broomsticks on the back burner and zeroed down on Mary Poppins. They made Bedknobs and Broomsticks 10 years later. Anyway, Angela Lansbury's in the house. Diana, what's your favorite Angela Lansbury What's your favorite Angela Lansbury TV show about murdering?
I'm embarrassed to admit how many of those episodes I watched, but at the time,
a lot or none?
No, a lot.
Okay.
I mean, it seemed like it was always on in the house.
Yes,
and certainly my grandmother always had it on. So every time we'd go to visit them, it was
everybody's grandmother always had it on.
Yeah.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda is in it. I think kind of playing not the same part as Dick Van Dyke, not the same role, but that character serves the same function,
right,
to dance and sing. So good for him. And Dick Van Dyke is going to be in it, playing the son of the old banker in the first movie. Right. I love the Mary Poppins movie, but I believe that film comes to a screeching halt when they get to the bank at the last half hour of it.
All the bank stuff is a bit much, but yeah.
Some of the story part is good, but that song, and oh my God, that goes on forever and ever, right?
Yes.
So here's a Mary Poppins fun fact for you, Diana. Do you like fun facts?
Oh, I love me some fun facts.
When I say we've gotten good response on fun facts, it means one person has said something about it. So
that's
therefore,
a good response.
That equals, right, for this show, that equals 1,000 people did. So Mary Poppins and Bedknobs and Broomsticks both co-star David Tomlinson, who was the father in Mary Poppins.
Right.
And a guy in Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Right.
He was Emilius Brown, I believe, in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. But anyway, he was also the bad guy in The Love Bug. Oh, Love Bug. Here's how I would rank them. Love Bug 1, Bedknobs 2, Mary Poppins 3. That's how much I love those other two, folks. If they did a Bedknobs and Broomsticks returns, I would be there opening night, much like I was when they did a Herbie reboot. Anyway, David Tomlinson's first wife, Mary Lindsay Hindige. Go ahead.
I don't know.
Here's your fun fact. His first wife, Mary Hindingding, committed a murder-suicide on December 2nd, 1943, by taking her 2 children, Michael and John Hindington, by the arm and jumping out of a hotel window in New York City, killing herself at the age of 34. Michael was 8 and John is 6. Isn't that nuts?
That's not a fun fact. That's just a horrifying
I'm sorry.
fact.
I meant a Mary Poppins horrifying fact. But that's crazy. Like, we live in a screwed up, messed up world, and you don't even hear that. You don't hear that anymore. Nobody jumps out hotel windows with their kids, do they?
God. Why did you bring that up? That's
I just
horrible.
thought it was super fascinating.
It's horrible.
She had been suffering depression by the loss of her first husband, who was killed in action during World War II. And on December 1st, 1943, she was hoping to join David in England, but while in New York City, soon learned she couldn't bring the kids, which led to her murder-suicide. Did I bring the show to a screeching halt?
You really did.
It happened in 1943. I'm not laughing at it. I just think it's very interesting.
But you labeled it a fun
Well,
fact.
that I was being a jackass, but
God.
yes, but it is a fun fact. That's interesting.
It's okay.
Aren't all interesting things fun facts? Nobody knew that listening, and now you know. Now next time you're watching Mary Poppins, you can lean over to your kids and go, "Hey, the dad, his wife killed herself by jumping out of a hotel room with her 2 kids. So be good."
Oh, God.
But also, their names are John and Michael. Those are the 2 kids' names in Peter Pan. It all comes around. That's a fun fact.
There you go.
That's a fun fact. If I ever heard one. So Disney is also... So that's Mary Poppins Returns, December 25th, at a theater near you. Check your local paper for showtime and listings. So Disney's also trotting out a new Winnie the Pooh movie this summer. Christopher Robin. Now, when I heard that they were doing Christopher Robin, I assumed it was a movie, and I knew it was live action. Ewan McGregor plays Christopher Robin. I assumed it was one of these endless amounts of movies about the making of the Winnie the Pooh book. There are more than one movie. There is more than one movie about the writing of the Winnie the Pooh novels. Have you seen any of them?
I have not.
No. My favorite was with Angela Lansbury called Pooh, She Wrote, and it was a gender... Never mind. Okay, I haven't seen any of those movies, but I would like to. I've actually read some of the Pooh Bear books, and not like a storybook like Pooh Saves Easter. I've read the actual A.A. Milne books and been on the ride and seen all the movies. So yeah, I was like, oh, cool, that'll be cool. I'll watch it, and then you go watch the trailer, and it starts off like that, where you think it's going to be. Just, oh, hello, sir. Oh, yes, I wrote a book about a bear. That's ridiculous. It says bestseller. And Winnie the Pooh comes to life. He's in the movie. Like, the stuff, it's awesome, right? It looks cool. You just saw it earlier.
Right. So Winnie the Pooh comes back to visit an adult Christopher Robin, and it does. It looks good. Or it looks like it could be good.
It could be good, right. We'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, so it's the actor that's been playing Winnie the Pooh for the last 30 years is voicing Pooh. The rest of the cast is all new, but they're not trying to do an alternate universe kind of crap. It's just like, here's another Pooh movie. This time it's live action, and it makes sense. It makes more sense to have a live action Winnie the Pooh stuffed animal walking around than it does to have the Smurfs walking around New York or Marmaduke talking or whatever. Marmaduke, that's where I went.
Sure.
I guess a live action Marmaduke makes sense. He's a dog and he lives in a yard, and that's the things that happen in that movie. But what's another one that they done that? You don't like questions, where they brought something into the real world where that doesn't work and it doesn't make sense. They've done it 100 times. The Smurfs comes to mind the most.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so Christopher Robin looks awesome. It comes out this summer. It's got Winnie the Pooh in it. He's awesome. He eats honey. Oh, he's gonna eat so much honey in this new movie. It's like real honey. Real honey, folks. It's gonna be awesome. So Ewan McGregor plays Christopher Robin, and Haley Atwell, who was Agent Carter, is also in the film, and she is good. So, yeah, what we were touching on earlier was we live in an age now where you shouldn't watch a trailer and get fully excited for the movie. It's just whether it's promising or not. Like, okay, this could be good. Like, I know not to go all in on Mary Poppins. I'm trying not to. It looks so good. And Christopher Robin, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
But there it is. Another point we wanted to bring up. In the Christopher Robin trailer, Does it do the studio thing? It doesn't do it in Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins can hold its own, but the Christopher Robin trailer says, from the studio that brought you Beauty and the Beast. A couple of points on that. First of all, we all know what Disney is, right? I know I'm a Disney buff, I'm a Disney fan, but everyone knows what Disney is. You don't need to tell us that Winnie the Pooh is Disney. We get it, we got it. From the studio that brought you Beauty and the Beast. So also, in the 100 years of Disney that have preceded, that's the one you're going to nail down, buckle down on? This crappy Beauty and the Beast that we made last year. That Disney. This is not the Snow White, the Bambi, this one.
Right.
Not not the original Winnie the Pooh. Beauty and the Beast with Hermione in it, singing off key. That's the one. Why do they do that?
I don't know.
And to say a movie is from the studio of doesn't do anybody any good, because the studio is just the money. That's just the money. Like, who cares? Like, you could say, you could say a comedy like the Cable Guy from the studio that brought you Deer Hunter. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. It's not the same people. It's just the money trickles down, right?
Yes.
So that's stupid. And of all the studios, Disney is the one with the most funneled, like, focused kind of output. Like, Disney, you know what you're getting when you go to a Disney film to some extent. John Carter, I'm looking at you. Anyway, that's all my ranting and ravings about all that stuff. But that got us to thinking about some films, some reboots, some remakes, some other things similar that are good.
Well, it just led to a whole discussion of, remakes in general get a bad rap. People are like, oh, there's nothing original anymore. Why do they have to keep remaking things? And
right.
whatever.
And actually, not to cut you off, that was the point I meant to make with the TV show things, is that with TV shows, like, these characters are meant to be loved. Like, who is not up for more adventures with characters that you like? Like, why is that a bad thing? Why is it when a movie or TV show is over, in what world do you live in where that has to be the end of those characters? Why can't they come back and have more crazy adventures? Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. They don't, and actors don't have to, the actor doesn't always have to play that part. James Bond shows that, like 6-7 people have played James Bond.
Yep.
So somebody else can be Indiana Jones maybe, or Mary Poppins, or Winnie the Pooh. No, Winnie the Pooh's got to be Winnie the Pooh. So Diana has created a list of some classics, some remakes that you say. What was your title?
Well, so I got to thinking about, what remakes exist out there that were good, So I compiled a list of 5 remakes that I feel have enriched the cinematic universe.
Just wanted to get the bell in there. Have enriched the cinematic universe.
Because obviously, not all remakes have done that. Some remakes absolutely do not need to exist.
I also hate the thing people say, like, where like a remake ruins the original. No, it doesn't.
Absolutely not.
No.
If it's done well, the two can totally stand on their own.
If it's done poorly, it just fades off into obscurity, and there you have the other one.
That's right.
Bambi 2, made for DVD, did not affect Bambi 1.
So, shall we jump right in?
Let's do it.
Excellent. All right. So, number 1 on the list from 1940, His Girl Friday.
His Girl Friday.
Have you seen this?
I have not, it's been on my radar for many, many years because it stars the wonderful Cary Grant.
Right.
And I love Cary Grant.
So Cary Grant, Rosalind Russell, it's a fun movie. It's a weird movie. But it's well done. It's a screwball comedy.
Yay.
Whatever.
So are you saying what year is it? 1940?
So 1940.
That's a remake?
That is a remake of a movie called The Front Page from 1931.
Yes.
So both movies are about, these fast-talking, hard-boiled newspaper people.
And they talk sort of like this, and they say things like this. And she goes, hey, I got a newspaper. Would you like a newspaper in bed tomorrow morning? I don't know. Maybe I would.
Right. So,
but you couldn't say bed in movies in the 30s.
So the difference in His Girl Friday from The Front Page is that the character of Hildy Johnson is turned from a man into a woman. It's a man in the original, and then...
So that's not a new idea, people. Ghostbusters wasn't the first movie to do that.
Right. it's really interesting looking at these two movies side by side. The front page in 1931 was pre-Hays Code Hollywood, so there weren't the same kind of censorship type things going on, and it's a very dark movie. It's generally categorized as a comedy. It's not really funny, except in a really dark kind of way.
I'm starting to think that comedy doesn't mean make you laugh as much as it's just a fanciful, lighthearted situation.
Well, this movie is definitely not fanciful or lighthearted, but it's interesting to see it then turned into this more lighthearted screwball comedy 9 years later. So yeah, it's and
it was remade later as the front page with, or am I way off, with Spencer Tracy, or is that the 30 version? It was maybe it's remade as Adam's Rib. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. It was definitely remade with Spencer Tracy and, don't do an impression, Katharine Hepburn as something, and then I think it was remade again later, like based on.
Well, yeah, I mean there was an 80s movie, Switching Channels, that was
Switching Channels,
which nobody saw
except you, me and my mom watched it, and I used to play it at the video store I worked at, and every single time I played it, somebody would rent it, like take it out of the VCR and like, I want to rent that. Kathleen Turner,
right?
Christopher Reeve,
correct?
And Burt Reynolds.
Yep.
Yes. I want to watch me some Switching Channels.
But yeah, I decided not to.
What is wrong with me that I would watch Switching Channels again and not go watch My Girl Friday first?
Yeah, watch His Girl Friday.
His Girl. My Girl, Your Girl.
Hell, even go watch the front page.
Yes.
Because it's in the public domain. You can watch it. It's out there. It's not hard to find. But yeah, so His Girl Friday, a classic.
A classic.
It was a remake. There you go.
How much is Switching Channels like a direct remake of it, or you have no clue?
I haven't seen Switching Channels. I don't know. My understanding is that it's more, inspired by, as opposed to like a strict, because I mean it's television as opposed to
TV news, right.
So yeah. Anyway,
Burt Reynolds.
So shall we move on?
Let's move on.
All right. So next on my list is Sabrina from 1995.
And this is about a girl who's a witch, and she...
No. Not that Sabrina. So it's, your classic, like, ugly duckling into a swan kind of thing. It's a total fairy tale fluff movie.
I want to say Humphrey Bogart, but I'm wrong.
Was in the original.
Okay,
so
yes.
the 1995 version, which starred Harrison Ford, Greg Kinnear, Julia Ormond, was a remake of the 1954 Sabrina, starring Audrey Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart, and William Holden. There's been a lot of criticism, about this 95 version, saying that, no one could ever possibly live up to, the glamour of the original stars. And, maybe that's
Julia
true.
Ormond's no Audrey Hepburn.
Right. But, honestly, I feel like, the glamorous, ness of Audrey Hepburn was kind of a detriment to her playing this, ugly duckling type character.
Right.
Just didn't, it was, it was
well,
hard
they always
to
do
swallow.
that in Hollywood.
Right.
They put on a pair of glasses and put her hair up in a ponytail, and makes her...
a little bit hard to swallow. And one of the problems that I have with the original version of the movie is there's this icky, like, suicide attempt at the beginning of the movie, where because she's...
so ugly that she wants to kill herself.
Right, because she's in love with this, guy who will never pay any attention to her, and so she's going to kill. It's icky, and thankfully they took that out of the remake. And but no, I mean, I think that this is a movie where both versions very much stand on their own.
Does she contemplate jumping out a hotel window?
She tries to kill herself with carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh boy!
She starts all the cars in the garage and is going to kill herself. And thankfully that got cut out of the remake.
The one thing I remember from the remake, which was you said Harrison Ford already, right?
Correct.
Is that at the time Greg Kinnear was hosting Talk Soup on E.
Right.
And he just goes from basic cable clip show to major motion picture like that. Like instantly, he's a movie star, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie definitely catapulted him into, being a movie star.
It paved the way for Dear God. Remember that?
That's maybe a movie that didn't so much enrich the cinematic universe, but, whatever.
He plays a postman, and Tim Conway's in it. That's all I remember. But anyway.
Anyway, so enough about that. Shall we move on?
Audrey Hepburn, just real quick. I saw a thing when we're recording this yesterday was like International Women's Day.
Right.
So Paramount put out a thing of like a bunch of clip arts of like different strong female characters, International Women's Day, and one of them was Audrey Hepburn from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Mm-hmm. But wasn't she like a hooker and like a horrible person in that movie?
Not exactly.
But she wasn't a horrible. But she was a hooker, right?
Not exactly.
Did I watch the wrong movie? Delete. Next movie.
All right. So moving on. Next on my list. Little Shop of Horrors.
Yay!
From 1986.
I have that on my little list here that I threw together.
Yeah. So this was a remake of the 1960 movie, The Little Shop of Horrors. The original was not a musical.
Right.
It was a very dark black comedy.
Low budget, shot in like 3 or 4 days.
Right. There's like pretty much nobody in it that you've ever seen again except for Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Who is the Bill Murray role in the remake.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the remake then was based off of the musical that was written.
Right. So there's this this movie was nothing before the play. And then Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, look at me with my names, because so they wrote a Broadway play, which of course was insane. Like, why are you writing a Broadway musical based on a 1960 low-budget film that no one has ever heard of or seen? And my mind is blocked because all I want to say is they went on to write Little Mermaid next. But anyway, so it's about a man-eating plant, which is crazy. And then, the play, he's just this little hand puppet. And the original movie, he's just like a little cheap rinky-dink hand puppet or whatever. But it gets bigger. Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty cheap looking.
And Diana, we have to mention, we worked on a production of Little Shop of Horrors at one time.
We did indeed.
In our past.
Yep.
Wow.
But this movie is so funny. I mean, like, my mom took me and my brother to see this in the theater when it was out.
That was one of my few. You got to go to the movies all the time.
Yes.
That was one that I narrowed in on. Like, I was like, yes, I'm going to see this, and I will not let up until my dad takes us to see it.
We laughed so hard at this movie, and we came home, and we couldn't stop talking about it, and we told my dad, who had not gone to the theater with us, we told my dad pretty much the entire movie.
He was sitting at home watching Murder, She Wrote.
Or whatever, yeah. And I remember him saying, well, I really wish I had gone to the theater with you so that I wouldn't have to listen to you tell me the entire movie now. Thanks, Dad.
And that, folks, is called 80s parenting.
That's right. But anyway,
go ahead.
Oh, nothing. What?
I was going to say little 12 or 13-year-old me flipped out because it was directed by Frank Oz.
Correct.
Who had only been associated with the Muppets up until that point, and it made total sense to me. I don't know if anyone else why wouldn't you have him direct a movie with a giant puppet in it?
Right.
So I was doubled down on that. Rick Moranis is in it. I love me some Rick Moranis. And it's a great movie. It is. I have the soundtrack on vinyl.
An excellent example of a remake that has enriched our lives.
Yes. Great movie.
Shall we move on?
And I think they're doing it on TV soon live, and that won't be good.
Probably not.
I think we're at the point where we realize these made-for-TV remakes aren't good. Yeah. I think it's Josh Gad and Rebel Wilson, who I wish would go on a boat and far away. That sounded slightly racist. I didn't mean it like that. I hate Rebel Wilson. But go ahead.
All right.
As Ellen. Wait, whatever happened to Julia Ormond? Whatever happened to her career?
Yeah, I haven't seen her in much recently. I think the last thing I recall seeing her in was Mad Men.
Okay.
But I don't know if she's made any. She probably has made some movies. I just haven't seen them. I don't know.
We have made comments on this show and just chatting and whatever about actresses like falling off the face of the earth once they hit like anywhere near 40.
Right.
And, you know, what happened to this person? What happened to that person? They used to be a big star. And I don't know if I want to say a lot of them, but a handful of specific people who we've said either on this show or whatever, it was because of Weinstein. Like, I've read articles. Like, I know I've mentioned Rosanna Arquette and Mira Sorvino, and like very specifically, like he held their careers back because, you know, he interfered with them. Maybe Julia Ormond. Who knows?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Anyway.
I just want to take credit for that, just like I take credit for solving Natalie Wood's murder a couple episodes
ago.
Right.
That's right. All right. So moving on. Next on my list is True Grit.
True Grit. Loves me some original True Grit.
Do you?
Yes. You're surprised. You saw a movie? Ed, the horse doesn't talk. He just rides the horse.
No,
True Grit's good as nuts.
Right. So the 2010 Coen Brothers version of this was, of course, a remake of the 1969 True Grit starring John Wayne.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
Well, the remake is based on the book.
Well,
more, whereas the original one's just a John Wayne movie.
Right. They're both based off of the same source material.
Or you could say the same horse material.
Right. My understanding is that the Coen brothers were trying to be more faithful to the book.
Right.
Than the John Wayne version had been. I have not seen all of the 1969 movie. I've seen some of it.
Bobby Duvall in the house.
Right. I find watching anything with John Wayne really painful.
Because he's a national treasure?
I mean, he won a Best Actor award for this movie, but I can't get
But
past...
he really won the award for his body of work. That was just, let's give it to him now.
Right. But I mean, honestly, for me anyway, his whole body of work I find painful.
He's a delight.
So, in my opinion, the remake is... I feel like it needed to be made.
What is it is it a remake if it's just, I guess it's a remake still, even if, you're remaking a movie of True Grit, even though the remake is not based on the movie. Like there's not like a throwaway to the first movie.
No.
Like, oh, this horse is named the Duke. What does it mean with the horses? It's not about horses. It's a cowboy movie. I know you do not like to label things in this manner, but would you say perhaps John Wayne is like a guy-girl thing? Like girls don't get it and dudes like it?
Maybe.
I like me some John Wayne.
Yeah.
You don't find too many women all that into Westerns in general, do you?
I don't know. And honestly, I don't find him quite as painful to watch in just the straight Westerns.
Right, the older ones, yeah.
Right. But I mean, in this movie where he's, playing sort of a comical character and
Rooster Cogburn?
Yeah. I find it hard to watch.
Great movie.
But yeah, but I'm a big fan of the Coen brothers version. I think it's just weird enough that, I think
you would be, Diana. You would be.
Anyway.
You should watch The Shootist. Is John Wayne's last film, and he knew it was going to be his last film, and it is very incredible and powerful and entertaining film. Because he dies in the movie, so it's like John Wayne dies in the movie, and John Wayne dies in the movie.
So, is John Wayne dead?
At the end of the movie, he is not in the state he was in at the beginning of the movie.
Well, I will have to look that up.
I hope I didn't offend anyone by saying women generally aren't into Westerns. Generally.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no data to back that up. So come at me, bro.
Anyway.
It's like Three Stooges. Like, kind of, that's...
I don't know. I don't know if I
thought you were going to do a Three Stooges impression there.
I don't know if I would really lump those in in the same way, but I hear what you're saying.
I hear you.
Yeah. All right.
Three Stooges have done Westerns, but what if John Wayne did a Three Stooges movie?
Oh, that would be so painful.
Who would poke John Wayne in the eye? Go ahead.
All right, so last on my list from 1988, another entry from Frank Oz, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which they are remaking again.
With Rebel Wilson.
And Anna Kendrick. I'm a fan of the concept of taking two people and teaming them up again because maybe it worked the first time. I don't know. You could team Rebel Wilson up with a basket of $1,000, and I still wouldn't find anything appealing about it. But go ahead.
Right. So this was a remake of the 1964 movie Bedtime Story. Have you seen this movie?
I have not. I've seen the 2009 Bedtime Stories with Adam Sandler.
No.
And dear sweet Carrie Russell.
So they're actually, very, very, very similar, the two movies, but it's the casting that makes all the difference. So Bedtime Story, the cast included David Niven in the Michael Caine
I was going to say David Niven and Michael Caine are interchangeable almost.
and Shirley Jones in the Glenn Headley role.
Okay.
And
Mrs. Partridge.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. And in the role that then turned into the Steve Martin role, Marlon Brando.
Sure, why not? He's wacky.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting watching this version because he's not terrible in a comedic role, but yeah, like we don't generally think of Marlon Brando as a wacky fun time kind of guy. So seeing him in a comedy is really kind of strange. But anyway, so yeah. 1964's Bedtime Story was remade 1988 as Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. They're very, very similar, except for the twist at the end, which isn't in the original.
And you don't tell me, because I remember watching it the first time and saying, I never need to watch that again because now I know the twist ending. But at this point, I've forgotten the twist ending because I only saw it that once, so I'm down for watching it again.
However, should definitely watch it because it's such a funny movie. It really, really is.
However, I will not watch the Rebel Wilson. That's not true. I might.
Well, again, I think that both versions are definitely worth a watch. I really like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and I'm really sad that Glenn Headley is no longer with us.
May I go to the bathroom? Yes, of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
He went in his pants is what we're getting at. And he had a cork on his fork. I remember that.
Yep.
Diana, you always come to the table with your homework, and I appreciate it.
Hey.
Because what that means is I don't have to do as much prep work.
Right.
Here's a couple real quick that I jotted down of remakes and reboots of note. The Fugitive with that was the remake of a TV show, but it was good with Harrison Ford.
Yeah, it was well
an old
done.
TV show. It was nominated for an Oscar. Another movie that has been remade twice, and this proves my point, the remake doesn't ruin the original, is Adventures in Babysitting. Remade twice as The Sitter, garbage. Adventures in Babysitting a second time, ultra garbage. I wrote down Little Shop of Horrors. I was going to mention The Vacation, The Fifth Vacation, which is kind of not really a remake, just kind of a continuation. That's one way of doing it, but we'll pass on that. And I didn't get time to talk about Rainbow Road to Oz, which was Walt Disney's attempt at making, it never got filmed, was going to be a Wizard of Oz remake starring the Mouseketeers, and that would have been...
Well, you know that the...
You have a minute to tell me.
the classic version of the Wizard of Oz that we all know was not the first time.
I do know that.
It hit the silver screen, so there you go.
There you go, but it is the classicest version.
That's right.
Has any version come close to capturing it a second time? That Fairuza Balk one, we've talked about that before.
Not even close.
Not even close. And the one with James Franco, no. Because he's gross. Right? Folks, thanks for listening to What's Your Favorite Movie, the podcast where we talk about movies. Go over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe. It helps the show so much, more than you could ever imagine. Or just tell your friends about it and give us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Anything that you think we should talk about. Diana, Thank you so much for joining us once again on the program.
Thanks again for having me.
Folks, until next time, it's khaki wishes and cookie dreams. May God bless you. Good night.